Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 Year-End Payroll and 2026 Open Enrollment File webcast for today. Happy holidays as well. My name is Kim York, and I work with the EERP support team, and I'm glad you all decided to join today. We've got a big crowd, it looks like. So let me first introduce our team. We have Kristen Lambert, who is our team lead. She will actually be picking up a little over halfway through this presentation. She and I are working on this together, myself and Kathy Pelletier, who is our Tyler Technologies vendor partner. And you'll see our email on this page as well, the eerp@education.ky.gov. That is our team email box, and that will go to all three of us. In the event that one of us may be busy or out of the office, there will be someone there to answer any questions that you may have. So if you have questions during this presentation, you'll see a Q&A icon at the top of your screen. Feel free to click in there and ask any questions that you may have. Kristen and I will be monitoring this throughout the presentation to answer any questions you have. And obviously at the end of the webcast, we'll answer any other questions that you may have as well. So first, kind of an important announcement. So we have some MUNs, and I know that you all are so tired of hearing MUNs. We've had a really busy year, and we so appreciate the patience that everyone has had through all of the the updates and fixes that we've had. I know that this has been an extremely busy year, but hopefully the latest MUNs that are coming out are going to be ones that really fix our Kentucky Employee Benefits Program, specifically our CRIS daily files. So there was a sequencing issue that was going on, and that is fixed. We're just waiting on the release of the MUNs based on your version number. And as soon as we get those, we will provide those, but nothing regarding the open enrollment file process should begin until those MUNs are in place. So the open enrollment file is expected tomorrow, December 10th. An end-of-year payroll guide was attached to the webcast reminder today. Please follow the year-end payroll guide steps. Those steps are there for a reason. If you get kind of out of sequence with that, it could really cause some issues. So please follow those steps in order. And a copy of the archived webcast and this presentation will be sent after they are prepared, hopefully later today. If not, it'll be tomorrow. So the first thing is to import your new health plan codes, your state miscellaneous codes. Those two were attached to that webcast reminder this morning, so you have those. And districts are now required to do this, to import the new health plan codes, your state and miscellaneous, into Enterprise ERP before importing the annual open enrollment file in December. These codes are used by the Kentucky Employee Benefits Program when importing health insurance files from CRIS. So both files must be completed before importing the open enrollment file. And again, as I mentioned, both files were attached to the webcast email this morning. You can also find them on our KDE SharePoint site under Documents and Webcast PowerPoint Slides. So step one. You want to import the new health plan codes. This first step is for your state codes. So before importing the annual open enrollment file, new health plan codes must be created in Enterprise ERP. These codes are required by the Kentucky Employee Benefits Program to successfully import health insurance data from CRIS. So you'll want to follow the steps to the path here. Don't just search for state reporting codes in your hub. Please follow the steps of going to Human Capital Management, Payroll, State-Specific, South, Kentucky Schools, and then state reporting codes. That will get you to the proper state reporting codes that you need to utilize. So this is simply your steps. You'll select miscellaneous codes. You'll select import from Excel, select define. You'll select the acronym there for Kentucky Benefits Open Enrollment Plan Codes. Everything you see here is in the screenshot as well. In the input file field, you'll locate and select the Kentucky State Reporting Health Plan Codes 2026 that we provided to you. You'll select accept and then import. So step two is to import the new health plan codes, the miscellaneous codes. Remember, the previous were state codes, and these are miscellaneous codes, and they are titled just that way on the documents. So an additional process to add plan codes to the Payroll Miscellaneous Codes program is also required. These codes populate the health insurance tab in employee deduction. So you'll navigate to miscellaneous codes. Again, please follow that path. Don't just search for it. You'll navigate to miscellaneous type INSL, which is your insurance levels, and click accept. Select either yes or no to the prompt to view the record set. Either will work. You'll select import button from the ribbon and then define. You'll enter the following information on the screen. For template, you want to select default from the dropdown. For file, you want to navigate to the miscellaneous INSL Health Plan Codes 2026. Again, that's one of the files that we've sent you. And please note that EERP will rename the file to a temporary name in the file input path. You should see all of that there in your screenshot. And then please select skip first line. That's really important, and select accept. So you'll select an output format to view the report. You'll select yes to import the new records, select back, and on the main menu, select search and accept to view the list of insurance codes that you've imported. After importing the new codes, most districts will see 291 records in the found set. You'll select browse to view the list of codes to verify the new codes were imported. These are a very, very simple process. They literally take minutes to do, but districts are required to do that for this year. And this is simply a screenshot of the new 2026 insurance codes that you're importing. So step 3, we're going to verify the records in pending, and we're going to purge the old records. So before importing the 2026 open enrollment file, review all the records in Kentucky Employee Benefits pending area to determine if you have any unprocessed records. If you have any unprocessed 2025 files or records pending, they should be imported and processed before proceeding with the open enrollment file. Remember, everything needs to follow the dates that you receive them. So verify records in pending and purge old records. Again, step 3. We're going to follow the path to Kentucky Employee Benefits. You'll select import pending, import later, then update, select all, and accept. And then select the purge button and select yes to prompt. So those are for any files that you want to purge out of import pending. So step 4, we're ready to do it. We're ready to import the 2026 open enrollment file. So again, our first note here is that the files are expected tomorrow, December 10th. And the file can be imported into the pending area before December payrolls have been completed. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. You can move them into import pending, but there are steps that have to happen before you can do anything else with those, and we'll talk about those. So the process for importing the open enrollment file is the same process used daily to import your files. Please remember, it's just a bigger file. It's the same process, not doing anything any different than you would on your normal daily files, except this is just a bigger file. So the open enrollment file can be imported into pending and moved to active before the open enrollment file, let me restate that, can be imported into pending and moved to active before the December payrolls have been completed. However, do not process the update deduction step, which is 9, before completing all 2025 payrolls and deleting, which is step 8, all 2025 health insurance and FSA deductions. That's really, really super important. So we're ready to import the open enrollment file. The open enrollment file and all daily files must be imported in order by date received. That's important. Those files come in date to date. Somebody may change something. That's going to be a date following. They need to be imported in the dates that you receive them. So do not import files received after the open enrollment file until the open enrollment file has been imported. So the posting of both the employee and employee portions is critical for W-2 processing. It is the district's responsibility to make sure both employee and employer deductions are posted. So effective dates on our records. This is something to remember. Your health insurance, FSA, vision, and dental all have a 1/1/2026 effective date on your open enrollment file. But do remember, because I get a lot of questions about this during open enrollment, during the open enrollment period. Life, which is your basic and optional dependent insurance dates, will vary. The date included on the file will reflect the original date the employee enrolled in life insurance. So know that that date is going to be different. I get calls and say, my life insurance says April 2022. And it could. It's when they actually enroll in the life insurance programs. But everything else, your health insurance, your FSA, vision, and dental, should have a 1/1/2026 effective date. So your step 5 is to set your deduction start date and move your 2026 records to active. In the import pending area, select the open enrollment records and move to active. If you only have open enrollment records pending, you can skip step 1 and go to step 2. But let's talk about step 1. So this process works the same as when you import a daily health file, except you have many more records to manage. I think I've said that, but it truly does. It works exactly the same. It's just a bigger file, maybe a little scarier, but the same process. So 1 is if records other than open enrollment records exist in pending, imported after the open enrollment file, there are 2 options you have. You can filter and work with only the open enrollment records and ignore the other records. And you do that by selecting search. You'll enter the OE file name in the import file name field and check the box of each benefit type and select accept. Or after selecting update and select all in pending, you can manually deselect any non-open enrollment records before moving the open enrollment records to actives. So most of the time, you only get a few files after you get the open enrollment file before that process is done. So, for me, it would be easier just to select all and just to unselect those that came in after. So you'll select update from the ribbon. You'll choose select all button to mark all the records. Select accept, and at this point, only open enrollment records should be selected. You'll select your start date, enter the deduction start date for the new deductions, and select accept. Same steps you do on a daily basis. So you'll determine the deduction start date to ensure the new deduction amounts are withheld in the first January payroll. The deduction start date should be before or within the first payroll where the 2026 health amounts are to be deducted. So in the example I'm going to show you, we're using 1 day before the beginning of the payroll periods. But again, your dates may differ from this example. So we kind of always go, the majority of our districts pay on the 15th and 30th. So we try to think about that when we use an example, but some districts get paid on the 10th and the 25th, or you get paid once a month. So you'll want that to be adjusted. But again, still the same way that you would do this on a daily basis. So we're saying that this district has their first check for 2026 on January 3rd. So the deduction start date that we've chosen is 1 day previous to the payroll date range. It can be that date or a date within the payroll date range. Tyler instructs us 1 day before, so we've just always used that. So we're saying that the payroll date range is 12/15 to 12/31. So we've chosen a deduction start date of 12/14 in this example. You then select the Move to Active button and select Yes to the prompt. So let me go back. I want to also mention that when you move to Active step, what it does is create that benefit record. That's what Move to Active does. It creates a benefit record. You still have the update deductions steps to go after that, but I just want to mention that when you choose Move to Active, what you're doing is creating that benefit record. So federal reimbursement and health records, and this is kind of why I mentioned that. So records must be moved to active throughout the entire year. These records are vital to processing the federal reimbursement process. If records are not imported and moved to active, creating that benefit record, right? Federal reimbursement amounts will be incorrect. So after you've done the import process of your daily files, the open enrollment file, those benefit records are there. They're mostly informational, right? You go to look at them, it's informational, but they become critical when you have someone who is federally paid and you're doing federal reimbursement, needing to reimburse KDE for the health insurance portion for federal reimbursement. And it pulls from the benefit record. So if they don't have a benefit record, there's going to be nothing for it to pull from with federal reimbursement, and your federal reimbursement will be wrong. A lot of times you catch this up, as you go along, it's like, oh, I should have been paying in and I didn't. You've got to back up and redo this whole process. So be sure, if you're someone who has manually entered someone into employee deductions, maybe you didn't get a file from Chris or something happened there, and you've manually put them into employee deductions, You want to be sure that they have a benefit record so that their federal reimbursement runs correctly. You can manually add a benefit record to the program. So step 6, health insurance post-tax deductions. So post-tax health deductions only apply in certain situations. If an employee's health insurance is supposed to be a post-tax health deduction, it must be manually maintained. In rare circumstances, this would apply, and your district should be aware if it is applicable. I think I've seen 2 of these in my 10 years. It's extremely rare. But should that happen, from the benefits record screen, you'll find the employee whose health deduction needs to be processed as post-tax. You'll select Update and remove the check mark from the pre-tax box and simply select Accept. So now you're ready to do it. You're going to complete all your 2025 payrolls, and all 2025 payrolls must be completed before you move to the next step. So step 7 is extremely important. So step 8, you're going to find and delete last year's deductions. So many people tell me that this step scares them to death, and it shouldn't. You're simply taking out the old, and when you bring in that new open enrollment file, you're going to bring in the new. So it's nothing to be scared about. If you're really scared, you want to call, and I'll hold your hand and take you through the process. I'm happy to do that. But we want to start with a clean slate. So you want to find and delete all the following deductions after all 2025 payrolls have been completed. So remember, after all 2025 payrolls have been completed. Now that's a step you got to pay attention to. So these are the state benefits, your health insurance, your life insurances, dental and vision. So failure to delete these deductions will result in optional plans that were not elected for the new year continuing to be deducted from payroll. So it's more important that you do it than not do it. So again, we're going to be here to help you if you need any help with that. So this step can be completed using the global option in the employee deductions program. You simply follow the steps till you get to employee deductions. That's your pathway. You'll select global. You see the red arrow there that's pointing to global. You'll then click delete at the top of the employee deductions global add delete screen. You'll want to enter the appropriate deduction code number and then select enter. So it's really good to have all of these deduction codes at your fingertips. If you have them right there, easy peasy process, you'll have it done in a couple of minutes. But if you have to go back and look for these deduction codes, that could be monotonous. So have all your deduction codes at your hand when you start this process. So you'll enter the appropriate deduction code number and then select enter. Select yes if you're ready to delete that deduction. You see the screenshot. And you'll simply repeat those steps for all of your deduction codes, all of your state benefit deduction codes. So step 9 is to process your update deduction. So do not process the update deduction step until all prior steps have been completed. You'll close the employee deductions program if it is open before proceeding. That's important. And from the Kentucky Employee Benefits main menu, you'll select benefit records, select current find, and then select update deductions. Again, current find is the general way to update deductions. I've talked with districts who like to manually update each person that they're entering. And if you do a current find, it's the same in your daily file processing as it is in the open enrollment file. You have to do it for the open enrollment file, right? You can't individually put all these people in. So do a current find. Play with it while you're doing this open enrollment, process and see. When you do it on a daily basis, it will just take a quick glimpse through all of your records. So it may say that you have several thousand records out there that it's looking for when you do your current find. That's okay. It's simply looking for that minimum deduction start date, anything that date or after. So it's not going to, it's a quick process, but don't let it scare you if it says you've got 3,000 that it's going to look at, because it's simply looking for that minimum deduction start date to update your deductions. And it helps you if you missed somebody yesterday, it'll pick that up, right? So you'll select define and enter your minimum deduction start date. So that date's important. That's what it's going to look for, that date or after. You'll enter the deduction start date you entered when moving records to active. Only benefit records with the deduction start date as of that date or later will be processed during the update deductions process. Any unposted records with the deduction start date that falls before this date will be ignored. This method should be used throughout the year, not just for the open enrollment file. So again, it's a really good idea to use current find. If you miss something, it may help you pick that back up. Current find is just a good method for updating deductions. So enter the minimum deduction start date, the start date used when moving deductions to active. You'll select delete employee deduction. That's standard. You'll select the type of record, select all or individual. I hit select all, but sometimes I also hit the health button that's underneath that, just because it makes all of those light up and I can feel confident that it's selecting all. When you hit select all, that's the only one that lights up. And for me, I just prefer to go ahead and hit that health record underneath it, and it'll light all of those up with check marks. You'll select output post and then choose a method to output the view. So you'll select yes to post. And again, we're going to talk about this. The update deduction step must be performed in Enterprise ERP. The posting of both the employee and employer portions is critical for W-2 processing. It is the district's responsibility to make sure both employee and employer cost of coverage deductions are posted. I know I said that once before, but it's really important. So a reminder here is, if you set the deduction start date for a future date, you won't see the deduction if current is selected. You must select future. So you won't see those radio dials until you hit search. And if you're still in December and you're looking for something in January, you'll want to choose the future radio dial so that you're seeing things that are going to be in that employee deductions in the future and not current. Most default to current, I believe. If I've seen a few that have defaulted differently, but it should default to current. You want to move that to future if you're looking for something in a future month. So if you have a posting error, if you ever have, this is just a general slide that we're putting out there. If you ever have a problem when posting and ERP displays an error, take a screenshot of what that error is. It really helps us to be able to see what you're getting. It may be something that we need to move forward to Tyler to look at. And it helps if they can see the actual error message. And you have Microsoft Snip and Sketch or snipping tools. It's built into Windows and can be used to capture screenshots or however you capture your screenshots at your district. But if you do get a posting error, please do take a screenshot of that in some way. So some miscellaneous import file information here is that you want to continue importing files received, that's hard to say, after the official open enrollment file. Files received after the official open enrollment file may contain both 2025 and 2026 records. If you receive 2025 records after importing the 2026 open enrollment file, it will require a manual update to employee deductions in payroll to collect the amount owed. If posted or moved to active, it will overwrite the 2026 deduction amounts. That's important to remember. So FSA amounts after open enrollment. The FSA amount sent on files reflects the total annual amount to withdraw for the calendar year. It's already, based on how you have your settings, it's going to calculate that for the year. You'll update the cycles on the records before moving the FSA record to active. EERP will recalculate the per check amount. So should it be different than what you get on the open enrollment file, or somebody it comes in later, you'll just want to adjust those the flexible spending cycles, and it will recalculate it for you. So here is where Kristen is actually going to pick up from this point forward. Kristen, are you ready?
I'm ready. It's going to be a hard act to follow, Kim. Excellent job on explaining the program and open enrollment. Couple things that you just want to rehash and go over. Kim talked about at the very beginning, maybe you tuned in late. We do have some updates available for this program. We were hoping they were going to be out on yesterday, but there was a slight delay. We will send information out about those MUN updates. Please don't import your open enrollment file until that has been applied. And of course, we'll send information out with everything that you need to know about that, apply that update. We had a good question about, can you go ahead and import those Excel files that have the miscellaneous plan codes and the health insurance Kentucky specific new plan codes? Yes, you can go ahead. Yeah, you can go ahead and do that at this time, and you have to do it. If you don't do it, your records will not reflect correctly, and those plan codes won't be there to load up and display in the Kentucky Employee Benefits Program. So Tyler has, I don't want to say shifted, they've done this for a while where they're moving some of the power into our own hands where we are in control of being able to load these codes. And so what we as a KDE goes through and test everything and creates the files. All you have to do is import it. You don't have to figure it out. We've supplied the files to you, so it should only take a moment to import those. And also want to follow up on that minimum deduction start date. I've helped people in the past, like it'd be summertime and they would still be using a deduction start date of like 12/14/2025, and it'd be July 2026. That's a moving date. So when you're processing files throughout the year, um, you have a new minimum deduction start date. It say it is, March and you have a payroll, you would use a February or March start date. You don't want to be going back too far because that would be possibly picking up old records that were not posted and should not be posted. Maybe a retiree like who comes back to work as a sub. If you do not use that minimum deduction start date correctly, it could post a deduction for someone who is a sub, who has an old outstanding Kentucky employee benefit health record sending out there. So that's why we put that feature in years ago, and I just wanted to kind of explain some of the reasoning why we had it. So now we get to talk about all the other stuff that goes with the end of year. Let me grab the slide deck here. So another thing I wanted to point out, we haven't really talked about this. There is a reaction thing, a smiley face on the Teams bar. Can I get a thumbs up if anybody here's ever purged health insurance records using the purge functionality? It is out there and it may actually improve the performance of the program. Chris is the system of record for all health insurance. It's really not Munis. We're using this for the, deductions, which you're updating. We use it for the federal reimbursement portion. So you may want to consider purging files. If you have the correct security settings, you should have that purge buttons or purge records button. And go in there, think about it. We've been using this program for 10 years, so there's probably a lot of records out there, especially the larger your district is. So the program's also set so you can't purge current year records or prior year records, both calendar and fiscal year, because we do need those records for federal reimbursement. So if you're scared about doing this, don't worry. The program is built so it does not purge those records accidentally. And again, it may improve your performance. The effective date, the earliest effective date would be January 1st, 2015. That's when we implemented this new program. And the last effective date that you could possibly purge for calendar as of today in 2025 would be 12/31/2023. So you can go ahead and purge those records, maybe some cleanup before you start doing all your open enrollment processing. Let's see here. Another update, just a little end of year stuff. Social Security or FICA, that of course increases every year. You want to go into all your FICA deductions in the deduction and benefit master and update your annual max. Man, I would love to be paid over 184,500. So this may only apply to a few members of your school district, but that should be updated to the annual max of $11,439. Federal tax tables are now handled by Tyler. They started doing that last year, so please make sure Tyler Deploy is set for automatic updates. When those tax tables are available, they're in draft form now. It's not official as of yet, but once they are finalized, Tyler will load those codes, put them in Tyler Deploy, and when you receive your next update, they'll be in there for you. We'll probably send some information when we see it out there in Tyler community to remind everyone about that. But you are responsible for posting your Kentucky tax table. So the Department of Revenue has released the update for 2026 and the tax rate is going down 0.5%, yay, so a little less in taxes. Also the standard deduction has increased. So to update that tax table, or to create one, you'll open the tax tables program and search for January 1st, 2025. and then locate the Kentucky tax table. The easiest way, again, copy the table and copy that to the new effective date of January 1st, 2026. Then you do have a couple more steps. You're not done. There's a calc button on the ribbon. You select that and you update the wage, the gross wage here. Oh, I'm sorry, I circled the wrong one. 3360. So that should be updated. And then you select the tax table button and you need to update this to 3.5 for the reduction in the taxable wages. The deadline for ACA is giving it to the employees continues to be pretty much the same as prior years. March 2nd, you need to have those forms to employees. Electronic filing is due to the IRS on March 31st, 2026. The files that you'll need to create the ACA records, whether you use Tyler or a third party for your ACA reporting, that would be distributed around January 13th. You know, this process does take multiple organizations to produce, review it. We have to extract it and transform it, distribute it. So there are a lot of hands, I don't want to say a lot, but there are multiple parties involved in getting this file out to you. We will send an email notice once those files are available. I'm always getting emails, like even the day of, like, when's that file going to be available? We'll let you know. We're trying to get it out to you, but it does take a few days to process, and the forms aren't due to employees until the beginning of March. So you still have plenty of time. The guides for ACA are out there on the KDE, on the KDE website. It's under the ACA reporting section, and we update those guides each year. Another little tidbit, the year-end documentation and guide. Tyler has done a great job in Tyler Community on having a page about year-end processing. It includes links to webinars that they're having. If you're new to processing or have only done it a few years, it might be worthwhile to check out like their 1099 sessions, W-2s. Also, they have documentation out there related to the W-2s, ACA, and other documents will be published as they're available. We have also created or downloaded those files and put them on our KDE SharePoint site. I'm going to be selfish and post that here, the link to our site in the Q&A in case you don't have it. Actually, let's see here. So that is our KDE Enterprise SharePoint site. You use your email address and password to log in. I've dropped the documentation in a year-end Tyler Documents folder. It's just a nice repository to have. And final note, Tyler Community, if you are not a member of Tyler Support and Tyler Community, you do need to register for access to see those pages. All sorts of good information. And that segues into the update for the tax exemption for overtime that came out this year. Now, our slide deck is already dated because this is continually evolving. There is a link to the Tyler Community Tax Exemption for overtime. That's in the guide that was distributed this morning. I highly recommend you check that out, save that as a favorite in your browser, and look at it periodically. There's been an update since we created this slide deck with a little bit more information, but what you need to know is that 2025 tax year is going to be treated as a transition year. So you will not be required to put this on a W-2 form. It is optional. The 2026 draft W-2, though, does have that in there, so we will be required to report it next year. My understanding is Tyler will be creating a report to help assist with reporting that overtime. And excuse me, it's not the full amount of overtime that's being, say your normal hourly rate is $10 and the overtime rate is $15. I believe you're only reporting that $5, the difference in between. We're not experts on this. I have to continue to direct you to the Tyler site and resources, and they'll continue to have more information. Again, just optional for 2025, but if you do have people that qualify, it might be handy to be able to produce a report. Tyler will have more information on that. Get tax form printing. If you use Tyler Forms, that is going to be only through Tyler Forms this year. You still continue to use Doc Origins, which is the older version of integrated Tyler form printing. W-2, 1099s, all that stuff will only be in enterprise forms, aka ready forms. So Tyler has been going through updating Tyler Forms, so you have the latest and greatest code to produce those. Check out the post on Tyler Community for more information about printing. Of course, Tyler will continue to support the pre-filled printing forms. If you have a not blank check stock, what am I trying to say? They'll continue supporting printing if you're using forms that you shoot through a printer and it just fills in the data. I can't spit that out, but you know what I'm saying. If you don't use Tyler Forms, Tyler will still support that. I already talked about our KDE Enterprise SharePoint site, great repository for information. People ask me questions. I can't keep it all in my head. So I've posted it on the SharePoint site and we'll send links with that information. So great repository for information. If you haven't checked it out, I dropped it here in the Q&A. You should be able to click on that and check it out. And I kind of flew through all my part of the information. I think I mentioned everything already. As far as the reminders, MUN updates, we'll be sending out information and as it goes on. Hopefully that'll be released tonight. We'll be able to give you that information tomorrow morning with the MUNs. So maybe tonight's a good time to go ahead and check your automatic update schedule and make sure that automatic updates are scheduled for tonight. If you have any questions after the webcast, please send them to our team box at eerp@education.ky.gov. I do have a hand up. I'm not sure that may have just been meant to be a reaction, but Jennifer, if you had a question, please drop that in the Q&A. Let's see here. And I have nothing else here to share. Kim, did you have any thoughts to share with the group as we finish up?
Nothing I can think of. I'm glad you clarified the minimum deduction start date. That's really important. Yeah, but I think if you have any questions about this, you're always welcome to reach out to us at the team box.
So we'll send out that information at afterwards, after the webcast is ready, recorded and is out on the archive website. And of course, we'll send out more information about the update to the program. Please make sure that's in place before you import your records, open enrollment records, and we'll include information on how to verify that you do have that update in place. So that's all we have.
Thanks, everybody. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Have a good day. Bye-bye.